Well, welcome to the JD Power Travel Podcast. I'm Michael Taylor. I'm the practice lead for travel at JD Power, and I'm joined, as always, by Andrea Stokes, who's the practice lead for hospitality. Hello, Andrea.
Hello.
And Jenny Corwin, who's our senior director of consumer insights at JD Power. Hello, Jenny.
Hello.
Well, I thought I'd start off this podcast with relatively good news. As I always tell the clients when I show up to these types of meetings, the meeting goes so much easier when you bring a trophy with you, and that's what I did last week. uh, Handing out a trophy to Delta Airlines, who won our North American Airlines Satisfaction Study for 2021. Of course, all winners have a lot of great things going for them, but Delta over the last 4 or 5 years has really been ramping up their people skills, the ability to handle people's issues and give outstanding customer service both on the ground and in the air. And that really helped them, just edge out Southwest Airlines, which has been a multiple past winner of our airline study. So congratulations to Delta Airlines, number one in customer satisfaction in North America, as ranked by JD Power. So, and with that, I thought we'd transition into, I think, a really interesting and hot topic these days, which is, masks. Who's going to wear a mask and who's not going to wear a mask? And Andrea, as I understand, there's quite a bit of controversy as to who's going to wear a mask at a hotel and who's not. So, Andrea, what's going on there?
Yes, well, it looks like Marriott, Hyatt, and IHG just announced that they will not require guests to wear masks at the hotels they manage. Employees will still be required to wear masks, but it looks like guests will not have that requirement if they are vaccinated. But they're not really checking to see if guests are vaccinated or not, and they're not asking for any sort of proof of vaccination. So
You
it's
can just
really on the honor system.
walk in and say, "Hey, I've been vaccinated." Sure, right?
Right. Yeah, but of course, that doesn't preclude any sort of local or state mandates. There are still a lot of states and localities, right, that still have mask mandates in place. So hotels will have to abide by those mandates. But I suppose if your area or state doesn't have that mandate anymore, guess if you're a hotel guest, you won't have to wear a mask in the hotel in the
Well, I can
public.
tell you that in our passenger review product, which is a cell phone survey, very short survey is given to folks who are on the airport, and we get thousands and thousands of responses from major airports every week. One particular airport on the East Coast, which shall remain nameless to protect the innocent, 2 weeks ago they were reporting that, at least the numbers we got, were that 50% of people were saying, yes, I'm fully vaccinated. I either had the one shot that where you only need one dose, or I've had both of the other. And that was 2 weeks ago. And just this past week, that number jumped to 80%, which seems to be quite a leap. So I'm wondering how honest people are being about actually being vaccinated. A jump of 30% at a particular locality seems like, in 1 week, seems like a lot of people.
Yes, well, and it's interesting because I think the CDC is looking at these state numbers and the numbers that states are reporting, to kind of look at the decisions, right, that they're making around mask requirements, and that kind of thing. So it's ever changing. It seems like things have been moving rapidly. I think we just have to kind of constantly watch what requirements the CDC might waive for travel. I do, from my understanding, I think airlines and airports, public transportation, you still have to wear a mask as of now. But I do envision this could rapidly change. How things have changed so quickly, even from April to May. And if you think about, even from the month of June to July, how fast things may change in terms of the numbers of Americans getting vaccinated. So it's good news overall. I think we all need some relief.
Yeah.
So
I can say that the airlines in the over the last 7 or 8 months have each banned, over 125 people for each of the major airlines for not wearing masks, for refusing to wear masks. And I think that's actually a good thing, that they need to enforce it, simply because, and I know there's some controversy of whether you should wear a mask or not wear a mask, and whether it's really effective or not. However, if there's a policy in place, it ought to be enforced, because you're probably going to annoy, the handful of people that you're going to ban from traveling on your airline. But the 99% of people in the cabin are probably grateful that you're doing so. And wearing a mask doesn't seem to be too much of a burden at the moment. So, and when we were traveling this past week, it was, of course, required on the airline itself and in the airport itself as well.
I think all of the uncertainty though is definitely an opportunity for hoteliers and everybody to communicate different rules prior to for guests, right? Because we don't know the rules of every place we may be going or traveling, and like local ordinances, state ordinances, right? Every state's a little bit different right now, and it all depends on caseload and vaccine dosages provided and all of those things. It seems important for hoteliers and everybody to notify guests ahead of time to really ensure that they know what to do and what to have with them and how to be prepared.
Yeah, in speaking with our airline subscribers to the airline study, when the results came out, this topic got brought up, was brought up by the airlines, and our advice to them, the JD Power advice, is to, just as you said, Jenny, have a policy that's clearly communicated, as simple and easy to follow, and then don't make any exceptions to it. Which sounds very martinet, but really, in this case, you just have to do it. And the advice we were also giving the airlines is that don't expect things to go smoothly. There's going to be people saying, "Hey, I'm from Texas. We don't have to wear masks." Well, you're in Virginia right now, and you do. So there has to be very, very, very clear ground rules, to enforce, and they will change from state to state, obviously. So anyway, we're in that friction time again, where certain people's expectations are not going to be the same as others, and we're mixing the fearful with the fearless in the travel space, and it just won't be pretty for a little while. So anyway, moving on to another topic that is also COVID related is labor shortage. And I'll be happy to chat about later on after we give Jenny and Andrea a chance to talk about it. But a labor shortage is a very real thing in the short term. So Jenny, what is going on with labor in the travel industry?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that are happening that are causing a labor shortage, as you mentioned, right? Traveler and passenger volume is starting to increase, right? We're seeing people get back traveling, especially, I think a lot of people were waiting to be fully vaccinated, and now that they are, they're ready to go. And and other people are just following suit, regardless of their vaccination status. They're feeling safer and ready to get out there, and things are opening up, and people are ready to go. But there's also, some limiting circumstances for the people who are in the travel industry. A lot of companies had to lay people off at the beginning of all of this, and some of those people are slow to come back. They may have left the industry altogether, go somewhere else. There's still that $300 monthly unemployment benefit that some people are staying away because of that. Still, there's just the general income opportunity right now. So it's definitely something to overcome, right? And I think as demand increases, we would hope that there would be labor to increase to go with it. But it seems like that may be a little bit slower to return across the travel and hospitality space as a whole. But I'm sure Andrea has some more specifics around hospitality.
Yes, Andrea, let's hear those specifics.
well, it could become a real problem. I mean, I think it's the summer travel season is upon us, right? And we normally have high demand, during this time of year. This year, I think it's compounded with, as Jenny said, everyone's anxious to get away, especially if they've been vaccinated, and but it could become an issue for hotels, keep, opening up their rooms. So we're starting to hear about hotels having to keep some rooms unsold because they can't service those rooms with housekeeping. They don't have enough housekeepers to clean all the rooms, and so those rooms get left unsold, which is not what hotels need right now. Hotels need to sell every room that they can possibly sell. So there's a real concern there that this could get worse. And then there's the customer service side of it, right? And having enough, demand. If demand is coming back as it is, those guests are going to want to, be serviced in a certain way, especially in luxury hotels and upper upscale hotels, right? That typically have higher levels of service. So the guest expectation is going to be there. And if hotels are not staffed appropriately, it could affect, guest satisfaction. So a couple of things, that would, if they converge, would not be good, especially at this time.
I can say that recently I had the opportunity to speak to the folks at Orlando Airport, which are barely slowed down during the entire pandemic, maybe for a month or two. But they had a job fair because they are really, their vendors are experiencing a job shortage across all the different vendors that they have, whether it's a rental car company or a food and beverage outlet, or the folks that push the wheelchairs around for folks in wheelchair service. And they had a job fair, and as the the Orlando people were telling me about this, I was thinking, did anybody show up? And sure enough, they did. They actually had several hundred people show up to that, which I thought was a very encouraging sign that people were interested in getting a job at Orlando. And then on the rental car side of things, the labor shortage is affecting it in a kind of also strange way, or also tied to Orlando. We've had these stories, and I believe we covered on the previous podcast, of shortages of rental cars at various locations, especially leisure destinations. And one of the reasons for that is the rental car companies, reduce their stock of rental cars, but they also reduce their stock of people. And if you're repositioning a car, if you're going to drive it across town or from a city that's nearby to get to a location, say at an airport like Orlando, where people are going to be vacationing, someone's got to drive the car. Unfortunately, they don't yet drive themselves. And that has been a real issue for the rental car companies, is finding someone to actually reposition fleet when they need to. And that's led to some shortages at certain locations and increases in prices. So, okay, on to our next topic, which was, also a rental car company story recently, that Hertz is not quite emerging from bankruptcy, but at least they got some cash injections from some private investors, which drove their stock price up by double digits. And now Hertz is in a position where they're worth about $7.4 billion, which just speaks to the value of the brand name there. So looks like there's some good news. The demand for rental cars is up. And also there's some interest by private investment to invest in a very large and valuable brand like Hertz, a multiple J.D. Power Award winner, I might add. And it looks like they're on the path to recovery as well. So, well, anyway, with that, and I'd like to thank Andrea and Jenny for participating in this podcast, and I'd like to thank folks for listening to the JD Power podcast. If you'd like to learn more about JD Power, you can always go to jdpower.com, click in the upper right-hand corner where it says business, scroll down to travel, click on that, and you'll see all the things that we're doing and some interesting reports and press releases across hotels, airports, airlines, and rental cars at JD Power. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you again next month.